Okay, so pretenses of me wearing a Raven shirt from Teen Titans may lead you to believe that this is a DC video, considering I have nothing else to show that. But no, if you've read what the title of the video is, obviously, you can tell that this is not about DC. This is about Digimon again. This is the video about a bunch of the miscellaneous DigiDestined that we are introduced to during the Digimon World Tour series, the two episodes in Digimon Adventures 2.0, where we get to meet a ton of other DigiDestined from all over the world. We got all these different countries, Davis and Ty and their respective groups, they're all teamed up and they have to go to all these different places all over the world. The places that they, of course, go to are New York in America. They go to Mexico City. In Mexico, they go to, they're in like Queensland, I think. In Australia, they go to Paris in France. They go to Hong Kong in China. And then they also go to like somewhere in like Russia, Siberia area. I don't remember if it states specifically what city they go to, but I'm gonna guess probably like St. Petersburg or something like that. So this video is just going to be me kind of going through and talking about the different miscellaneous DigiDestined that they all interact with. There are a couple of DigiDestined that we really only get like one shot of them in their Digimon, and I'll like talk about that a little bit. But for the most part, we don't see every single DigiDestined. We don't get I don't think we get names for every single DigiDestined. There's a few that we get names for, so we'll see what happens with that. So we'll start with America, because that's where I am, and I think I listed these by like country of origin, I think, in all honesty, when I was just going through these, maybe. So we have America first, of the United States. So this is, of course, taking place in pretty much all this timeline takes place in 2002, because that's when Digimon Adventures 2.0 takes place. This part takes place near the tail end of that, since it's right around Christmas. So December of 2002. One of the DigiDestined, this is, of course, Michael is here and Mimi is here, and these are the DigiDestined that are interacted with by David, Davis. Davis is the one that interacts with these DigiDestined, Davis and Mimi. And one of the ones that we meet is a boy named Phil. We really don't know that much about Phil. He's, he's a DigiDestined. He has a Digimon that is called Frigimon, or something like that. It was actually is kind of a cool looking Digimon, in all honesty. I actually kind of like Frigimon. He's like this like lizard looking Digimon that has like flames coming off of him, or it looks like he's kind of made out of flames. Like, let's take Miramon. There's another Digidestined in this that has a Miramon, but let's take Miramon and make him a lizard and give him a helmet. Okay. I'm fine with this. Him and a bunch of other DigiDestined that I'm going to go through are working on gathering up all of these Digimon that have appeared around New York. I think Frigimon, Phil and Frigimon are working with a Digimon that's called Cherrymon. Giant cherry tree looking Digimon. And the Cherrymon decides they're going past Rockefeller Center on their way to Central Park to meet up with Davis and Mimi, and Cherrymon decides to attack the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree, which I just always found funny. I don't know why, but it's it's like a huge iconic thing in New York, and I was like, let's have a Digimon attack this inanimate tree that did nothing to it. But so Phil and the rest of the other DigiDestined that are there that I'm going to go over with. There are also, I think, Maria, Lou, and Steve, I think, are three of the other DigiDestined that I'm going to be talking about in a minute, or in this video, for this section, for the American section. And they end up, they're able to calm down the Cherrymon, and Davis and Mimi and Michael show up, and they're able to all work together to help calm it down. And then since all of these also kind of like they all recoalesce at like 1,000,000 points of light, I'm just going to talk about them, and then we'll skip to 1,000,000 points of light once I get through each of these miscellaneous DigiDestined, because most of those ones are all just pretty much the same. One of the other DigiDestined that we meet is Tatum. We really don't see Tatum. We get to see a slight flash image of her. So we get like a sketch of her. At some point, we were given a sketch of her in some of the other media, and her Digimon is Airdramon, which we've seen Airdramon a few different times throughout Digimon. This is the first one I think that we've seen as a partner Digimon. Most of these other DigiDestined have partner Digimon that seem to be a bit more common. As opposed to like Davis and Ty and their groups that have Digimon that don't seem nearly as common. Um, Unless like you're their kid, I guess. But Airdramon and Tatum have to get a Shogun Gekomon, whether or not this is the same Shogun Gekomon that is friends with Mimi and the others. I don't think it is. It's probably just some other Shogun Gekomon that gets transported there. And the Shogun Gekomon is at Niagara Falls because duh, because reasons. And they get they help lead Shogun Gekomon back into the city. We really don't see anything else of Tatum. Tatum is there when they send all the Digimon back. And then one of the other ones that we meet is Maria. Is another American DigiDestined. Her Digimon is Centaurumon. We've seen Centaurumon several times throughout the story. She's an American DigiDestined. I think actually, and I think I skipped this when I was talking about. I was trying to remember. For some reason, I thought one of these DigiDestined that was American also appeared to be like Native American. That could have been Tatum that I'm thinking of. Appeared to have like Native Americans because Phil seems to be African American, and then Tatum I think is supposed to be like Native American, and then Maria might just be possibly of like Hispanic descent but lives in America type thing. So kind of like that multicultural ethnicity type thing that's in New York a lot of the times. And her Digimon, Maria's Digimon is Centaurumon. She is leading a Okuamon, who's the thing that digivolves from Kawagamon, a real one as opposed to the Control Spire one that was made by Arukenimon previously. But like they show up and like I think they help deal with the rampaging Cherrymon as well. She helps with that. Again, most of these Digimon, we don't know that much about them. There's a Davidramon there also, and a Parrotmon that Maria is leading to Central Park to send back to the digital world. And then the other one that we meet, I believe it's the other day, American DigiDestined that we meet is Steve, and his Digimon is Frigimon. We've seen Frigimon before. Ty and Matt interacted with them back in the original series, and they interacted with one then, and then he's part of the little Mimi's squad of Digimon that show up to help fight Piedmon and then such. But this is not that same Frigimon. It's a different Frigimon. He shows up again, or he's there. He again Steve and Frigimon show up and they help deal with Cherrymon, and they're there when they send all the DigiDestined or the Digimon back to the digital world in Central Park, because the Central Park seemed to be like a safe place to lead the Digimon to. Which admittedly it probably was a fairly good idea to take them to that place. It's a big enough area where like they're it's like they can hide amongst the trees, but you got a lot of stuff kind of seeing them there. I was trying to see. They're just loading a group of a bunch of Digimon. I don't think we actually get a specific answer as to what other Digimon there are. And then the last one, I was wrong. Okay, so I got these mixed up a little bit. I knew there was one that seemed to be of Native American descent. That is not Tatum. This is actually the one that I was thinking of is Lou. Lou is the DigiDestined of Native American descent that I was thinking of, because I was like, one of them is of Native American descent. I remember that in the notes. No, it's Lou. And his Digimon is Tortomon. We saw Tortomon earlier in the series in regards to Matt. No, Davis and Vmon kind of had to deal with him. This one is not that same one, but they're leading a bunch of Digimon. They, to Central Park, and they still help to deal with Cherrymon. Cherrymon. The reason that it probably took so many of like these champion level Digimon to deal with Cherrymon is because I think Cherrymon is either a Mega or an Ultimate level. He's a pretty strong Digimon. But and I remember at one point, if I remember correctly, like they like after they kind of knocked Cherrymon out, they like put him on the back of Tortamon and like carried Tortamon like carried him back to Central Park to send them back home. Um, let's see here. That would be the end of the American DigiDestined. Yeah, we had so there's Tatum, Maria, Lou, Steve, and was that it, or did I miss someone again? Tatum, Maria, Lou, Steve, Phil. So we have all of them. Those are the American DigiDestined. Mimi seems to be in contact with them to a degree, since she's one of the the original quote unquote DigiDestined that's there. And then we move on to China, which is where Kari and Izzy go, and they meet the Poi brothers. And their Digimon are Syakomon. I think I mispronounced that, but I apologize. They're like these little clam things. And then they digivolve into Octomon when they digivolve, because like three brothers all have the same Digimon. And the three brothers have this huge crush on Kari when she appears. They're just like, oh my god, she's so cute. And they just like fawn over her. But they're apparently, it seems to be, they're rescuing their grandfather, who has mistaken a Mojimon for an evil spirit and is attempting to exorcise it. The brothers stop him and like digivolve their Digimon to try to contain it. And then Mimi and Izzy show up, or sorry, Kari and Izzy show up, and they try to calm the boys down and everything. And they're just like, oh, she's so cute. Maybe if we're really nice to her, blah 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 blah. One of the things that they did is in the original Japanese, Kari and Izzy had problems communicating with the brothers since they couldn't speak Chinese and the boys couldn't speak Japanese. In the English version, this is just, it's just, they just kind of gloss over that. But they also have it just be that like one of the Geni counterparts that's with them, who's called Jackie, because of course he is, because of Jackie Chan. The American counterpart of Geni is called Benjamin Franklin. Yeah, I see what you did there. But Jackie can apparently speak Chinese, and he's able to clear things up and everything. But the Poi brothers still developed this crush on Kari, and then they make their way. Their intention is to try to bring the Digimon to Kowloon Park, and it's this park in Hong Kong is like where they're telling all of the Chinese DigiDestined to bring the Digimon that don't belong there back to this area. And they actually end up having to go to the border of, I think it's the border of China and India, I think. And they have to try to meet up with a girl named Mina. And I'll go over Mina in a second, but they have to try to meet up with her, and she has to, cross the border. And they have all these troops stationed at the border. And they thinking that the Digimon are hostile and trying to prevent Mina and the Digimon that she has with her from entering. And what they do is, I think it's Kari that comes up with this idea, but there's one of the Poi brothers that actually pulls it off. They use one of the Octomon to go over, because like they have like these because octopuses squirt ink. So they have it that like the Octomon, one of their things is they can like squirt ink. So they like write with the ink on like the side of a cliff or something like that for the Japanese army for the Chinese army to see. And I don't remember what the exact word that they put is, but it's like something to do with like we come in peace, or like we're not hostile, or something like that. I don't remember what the exact translation of it is, but they help. And then the military just goes, okay, well, this is a bit different than what we've ever done before. And then they like use the soldiers to like make the whatever the I know Japanese it's kanji, but I don't remember if Chinese, if it's also the same word as kanji for like their writing. And they make out the thing of like go ahead or okay or whatever the case may be. And then like Mina and her group then cross into China, and they're able to send all the DigiDestined back. Let's see here. Yeah, and then some of the other DigiDestined that we see that are from the China Asian area, we have Yui Hong, whose Digimon is Eightmon, who is just another DigiDestined from Asia. She's another Chinese DigiDestined leading a bunch of Digimon to another Airdramon that we see leading a bunch of other Digimon to the park to send them back. We really don't see anything else of her. Then we see, I think it's Dine, who is, I apologize for mispronouncing these names. If you are from any of these countries or know how to pronounce these names and I'm mispronouncing them, I apologize. I very much apologize. His Digimon is a Gorillamon, and he is from Vietnam. And he's leading, a bunch of Digimon, of course, to Hong Kong again. And then, we don't really see too much of him, and we don't see that much of Yui Hung. Again, I apologize for mispronouncing any of these names. Foreign names are unfortunately not my forte, but if I'm told exactly how to pronounce them enough times, I do, a couple of times I tend to remember. And then, of course, we have Mina. Mina is, of course, the DigiDestined from India. Her Digi partner is Marimon. The DigiDestined have been friends with the Marimon before, but this is someone that we see that's a Digimon partner. She's, of course, the one that has problems entering from India with their Digimon, and Kari and the Poi brothers and Izzy work together and help get the help the Chinese military allow her to come in with the Digimon so they can send them back. Keep things peaceful. They don't want any international wars breaking out. We don't need World War III going on here, people. We don't need that just because of Digimon. Although that would have been Oikawa's plan, and that could have worked perfectly Oikawa / Malamyotis' mom's plan anyway. And they send the Digimon back to the digital world. And in each case, when they send them back, it also sends back the DigiDestined partner Digimon, I think. Or somehow the DigiDestined's partner Digimon get back to the digital world. Because later on, and I'll talk about this when I get to after I've talked about the other DigiDestined. Then we move on to Australia. So kind of not going in alphabetical order anymore. But we move on to Australia, which is where Joe and Cody ended up. They appear to be dropped off in Sydney at the beginning of it, and then they are somewhere along the Gold Coast of Queensland or something like that. So they're very far away from where they started. But admittedly, both of them have water Digimon that they can ride on in the water to get their way to this other place. So. But the DigiDestined that they interact with is Derek is his name, and his Digimon is Crabmon. I just have to say it that way because that's the way that they have that's the way they had the actor say it. The stereotypical Australian accent is Crabmon, who can digivolve into Colamon. So Derek is, of course, the Australian DigiDestined, and Cody and Joe are there, and they're trying to take down the Control Spire, and they meet the Hawaiian, that was wrong, the Australian version of Jenai, who is Hogan. I don't know if there's an exact reference there or not. It would have been hilarious if they called it Irwin, because, Steve Irwin was kind of a big thing at this point in time, so they could have done that, but they didn't, or something along those lines, but they didn't do that. But Derek and Crabmon are being chased by a bunch of these Digimon that are Gesomon, Shellmon, and Bidramon. Again, some of these Digimon names, I can't remember how to pronounce them. And they're being chased by him, and Cody and Joe save him, and then Derek introduces himself and everything, and they deal with the Digimon having Armadillomon or Armadillomon and I think Crabmon ride on Ikakumon chasing after them, and they start yelling out different types of Digimon seafood that they want to make. And I mentioned this in I think both Cody and Joe's videos, is that they're chasing after them and scaring them with let's have all these different types of Crabmon, or not Crabmon, Gesomon zucchini or Zekamon. It's all these types of seafood dishes and stuff like that, and just torturing the Digimon, no, get me out of here, they're running away, and it's just funny, and they threats of cooking them and everything, and then Crabmon digivolves Crabmon digivolves into Kuliamon. He's actually kind of a cool looking Digimon. It kind of looks a little bit like those ancient types of fish that everybody thought were like dead, and then they found them like in like the 1960s, even though it's like, no, they're not dead, they're not extinct, they are still alive. Um, but they're at the Great Barrier Reef, and they try to get them away from the Great Barrier Reef, and they have to destroy a control spire that's on the Great Barrier Reef. Because I mean, if you're gonna go to Australia, why not put a, you know, if you're gonna cause trouble and make someone have to go to Australia, you know, put the freaking thing on the Great Barrier Reef. Just don't make the sharks angry. Although that would have been very interesting if there was like any sharks that popped up at this point in time, because there are sharks that live near the Great Barrier Reef, and Australia has several large populations of great white sharks, because when I'm recording this, it's not too long after Shark Week, and I watched a bunch of Shark Week stuff, and like they were in Australia a lot for different things. But like they go and they're chasing after them and everything, and then they're able to destroy the control spire, and then they're able to get the Digimon sent back. I think they're able to send back that group, and then there's several other DigiDestined that then show up on a boat with a bunch of other, you know, with like their DigiDestined, you know, and, you know, so they're just like, you know, so these other DigiDestined show up, and like they're just having fun with that and everything. And so there's not too much else that goes on with that. Joe and Cody are able to send the miscreant Digimon back, of course, to the digital world where they're supposed to be. The miscellaneous DigiDestined, there's one that has a Bakumon, there's one that has a Divermon, and there's one that has and two, I think, that have a Gizamon. And these ones are just other random DigiDestined. We don't get names for them. Then we move on to Paris, France, which is where Tai and TK ended up, and where they interact with TK and Matt's grandfather on their mother's side. Again, I want to know the backstory for TK's family. Please, I want to know the backstory for these parents, because TK's grandfather is awesome, and apparently his grandma is just as awesome. It's like, my grandpa says he's going to do something 8 times out of 10. He's going to do it. Runs into Versailles, chasing after his grandfather. So the main DigiDestined that we're introduced to here is Catherine Deneve. I don't speak French. Yeah, don't speak French. My niece took French in high school. I didn't. I did Spanish, and I remember some of it. Which I think, you know, we got to talk about Maria later on, who's a DigiDestined that's in, you know, or Rosa, that's a DigiDestined in Mexico City, that I'll be talking about very shortly. So Tai and TK and TK's grandfather Michael run into the Palace of Versailles, and they find this girl there who's tied up with her Digimon partner Frigimon, and they were attempting to destroy the control spire that was in the area on the Seine River, and they are being held captive by a what is it? It's a Mamemon, Metal Mamemon, and a Big Mamemon, which are these 3 like kind of bomb-looking Digimon. Like, just kind of picture a like a cartoon bomb, you know, the round bomb with like the fuse on it. These guys are kind of just stereotypical messed up versions of those. They chase off those 3 Digimon, and they untie Catherine and Floramon, and like TK and Tai are just like, oh my god, she's so cute. And Patamon and Agumon are like, Floramon, oh my god, she's so cute. And Mina, okay, Tai is not in a relationship with Sora right now. Matt and Sora are kind of in a relationship at this point in time. Not Tai and Sora. So Tai is single. And, you know, for everyone that's like, Kari and TK are like, they're OP. Nothing against that, but I just like, hey, the girl was cute. And like, she's so cute, and she's a damsel in distress, but I will help her. And then she's a DigiDestined, so she can, you know, kind of protect herself to a degree. And they have to start going, you know, they start chasing off the other Digimon, the Mamemon brothers, I think is what they're just referred to as, because they're all like variations. Like one digivolves into the other and can digivolve into the other. Or it's like branched digivolution or something like that. I don't remember. But she explains that no, they're not the ones that kidnapped me. This other Digimon called, I think it was called Giromon, who's just this other more explosive type Digimon, literally. That she has to go up against, or that she was caught by. And they end up, they run after these other Digimon, and Catherine digivolves Floramon into Kiwimon. So it looks like a little bird. I like Floramon; they're very cute. I wouldn't mind a Floramon as a partner, and Kiwimon are pretty cute too. I don't remember what the next evolution would be for Kiwimon, or what the possible evolutions are for what Kiwimon can turn into. That would be that might be a video down the line that I might do, where I might do just if the DigiDestined could have their Digimon digivolve further in regards to these other, the miscellaneous DigiDestined, what are the options that their Digimon could turn into? Like I mentioned in Michael's video, that Michael has, Betamon that turns into Seedramon. Seedramon can turn into Metal Seedramon, or turn into Mega Seedramon, and then Mega Seedramon can turn into Metal Seedramon. And, so there's that line. But, what would these other ones be able to turn into? I don't remember. And, Willis's Digimon are, it doesn't matter what Willis has had. Right now, we're talking about these DigiDestined that are not from America right at the moment. There's a fly in the room. But, they're going through, and, they help save Catherine, and she, digivolves her own Digimon to help fight against, Goromon and the Mamemon brothers, and they're able to defeat them and destroy the Control Spire. And then I think there's some other Paris DigiDestined that show up, maybe. Yeah, there's some other Paris DigiDestined that show up, and they have their own Digimon with them, of course, and they help, they tie, and TK send the other Digimon back. To send all the Digimon that came to the real world that aren't partner Digimon back to where they're back to where they're supposed to go, back to the digital world. And then Michael, TK's grandfather, and Catherine have Christmas dinner together or something like that. When they do another thing that they show the two of them having Christmas dinner together, which I just find funny. And it's like, well, TK, your grandpa could pull something off. Why can't you? Go talk to Kari. I'm sure she'd love to go out with you. And yeah, the miscellaneous French Digimon, DigiDestined, one of them has an Electmon, one of them has a Gatomon, two of them have a Gazimon, there's a Vegimon, and then there's two Vilemon. And I just find the Vilemon funny because Vilemon kind of look like gargoyles. And I don't know if that's 100% reference to the Hunchback of Notre Dame, because the movie would have come out, or the DigiDestined, the Digimon itself as part of the series would have come out after Hunchback of Notre Dame, the Disney version of the movie, where they have the talking gargoyles and everything, as I've gone over in the Disney reviews. For Hunchback of Notre Dame, they have the talking gargoyles, Victor, Hugo, and Laverne. And so they have two gargoyle type Digimon that I just find kind of funny. Then we move on to Mexico and Mexico City, which is where Ken and Matt end up. And Ken and Matt have to go into the ruins of a Mayan temple in Mexico City, and there they end up interacting with a Digimon that is called Gatomon, and then they find out that this Gatomon is actually the partner Digimon to a little girl whose name is Rosa. Rosa instantly develops this crush on Ken, which is adorable. She's this little girl. She's got to be 8 at max 9 years old. She's adorable, and she's very precocious, and she instantly develops this crush on Ken. And her and Wormmon keep trying to kind of outdo each other to get Ken's attention, and it's just funny watching them. And Rosa keeps giving Wormmon the stink eye, and they just don't like each other. It's they're gonna butt heads and everything. And there's a lot of animosity between Wormmon and Rosa, and they end up working. They have to lead these Digimon out. I don't remember what the two Digimon are that are inside the temple. I think one... Did I write down what the two Digimon were? No, apparently I didn't. I want to say that one of them is like a Minotaurumon or something like that, but I don't remember what the other one is. But they have to like lead them out of the temple so they don't, cause trouble in the temple, so they don't destroy anything in the temple, because they don't want to do that. And at one point, Rosa falls, and like Ken has to carries her on his back and everything, and like Wormmon tries to pull off the same thing, but that doesn't work. And they digivolve their partners, and Gatomon digivolves into Monochromon. We've seen Monochromon before in the series, or these kind of black and white Tyrannosaurus Rex. Wrong. Black and white Triceratops looking Digimon. I actually like Monochromon. I wouldn't mind Monochromon. I wouldn't mind having a Gatomon or a Monochromon as a partner. There's several Digimon, in all honesty, that even though they're not like partner Digimon, they're like a major DigiDestined. I wouldn't mind having them as a partner if Digimon were real. Once I get better with like recording and stuff like that, I might do some quizzes to see like, oh, what's your crest? What's your like Digimon partner? I've done a Digimon partner quiz before. I'm not going to say what it was because I might do another one at some point on the channel, just as another video. But we'll see what happens with that. But what happens is, they get the Digimon sent back to the digital world out of the temple and safe and sent back to the digital world. And then Ken and Matt have to like sneak Rosa home. I'm assuming Gatomon like leads them to Rosa's house. And then like they leave her gently. They gently like lay her on the front porch and like probably do like the ding dong dash type thing. But it was like, drop the little girl on the porch, carefully put the little girl on the porch, and she like says something in Spanish, and Wormmon thinks that she's insulting him again. And she's not. Ken tells Wormmon that she's not insulting you. She said Wormmon is amazing, or Stingmon is amazing, type of a thing. And that just makes Wormmon kind of blush. And goes, oh, I guess she's okay, type of a thing. I was like, I guess she's kind of okay. She thinks that. And they drop Rosa there, and Gatomon is there. I'm assuming her parents don't know about Gatomon because he's like hiding off to the side. And then she ends up having a dream that night about like Stingmon and Ken and everything on like Christmas Eve. So she's just happy about that. And like Gatomon like sleeps either on the other side of Rosa's bed, so she, or like under the bed or something like that, so her parents can't see him. Covering him and everything, so he can hide that way. And then I think we just have the Russian DigiDestined left. So there are 3 main Russian DigiDestined that we interact with: Yuri, Anna or Anya, and Sonia. Yuri is the first Russian DigiDestined. He has a Kawagamon. All 3 of the DigiDestined have Kawagamon. And I have seen the anime Yuri on Ice, and I do like it. And I do want a second season. It has nothing, Yuri and Yuri on Ice and Yuri Russia and like all this other stuff. So yeah, we get that. I find that funny. But Sora and Yoli are actually the ones that interact with the Russian DigiDestined. They're the ones that get sent there. And they interact with Yuri, who has a Kawagamon, Sonia, who has a Sneemon, and then Anna, Anna, whichever one you want to go with, has a Unimon. Out of these 3, I prefer Unimon just because I don't care that much for bugs, but, Kawagamon are kind of cool looking, and Sneemon are kind of cool looking too. And what ends up happening is, Sora and Yoli, this is where one of the moments where we get, like, the language barrier type thing going on between, DigiDestineds from Japan and DigiDestineds from another country. English is sometimes taught in Japanese schools. So there's a possibility that they may know some English, plus they also have Michael and Mimi there that can translate for them if needed. So there's that when it comes to like Davis when he's with Mimi. Ken, I think, has stated that he at least knows some Spanish, which might be like a holdover from when he was the Digimon Emperor, that he kind of knows Spanish and everything. So that's fine there. TK's grandfather lives in Paris, so it would make sense that at least his grandfather speaks French, and that like maybe he's taught some French to like TK and maybe Matt. So there's like that connection there. But then you get to like, Joe and then you get to, Joe and Cody that went down to Australia. Now, it would not surprise me in the slightest at all if Joe knows a fair amount of English or is somewhat fluent in English. Just because he always likes to be prepared for so many different situations. So that would not surprise me in the slightest if Joe is at least somewhat fluent in English. Cody also, his father had apparently somehow been over in London when he died. We don't know. He died on duty. He was an on-duty police officer and was in London for some reason. So there's a possibility that like Cody's mother and grandfather have taught Cody some English. So I'll get by with that. But then you get to where Izzy and Kari are in Hong Kong, and they have to talk to the Ploy brothers. Now, they have Jackie, their Jedi's counterpart, that helps translate for them, and that kind of helps things go along a little bit quicker. But then you get to Russia, where we have Sora and Yoli, and, they introduce themselves to, Yuri, Anna, and Sonia, and, it's like lots of, hugs and shakes hands and, pointing out each other's names and everything. And it's just like, Yuli goes like, how are we going to communicate with each other? I don't speak Russian and they don't speak Japanese. So what they end up doing is they basically come up with the idea of, okay, Sora basically says, okay, so I know a little bit of Russian, and it's like, what is it? It's like borscht and like some other type, and caviar and Prasachki, something like that, or like the words that that Sora knows. So what they do is Yoli basically says, okay, so caviar means attack, borscht means to the right, and what was it? Was prochki, means to the left. So it's like, this, left, right. So it's like, borscht, prochki, bush, prochki, caviar, attack. So it's like they're flying around that way since all their Digimon can fly, and they have to fight a whole bunch of different Flymon. They're able to, defeat the Flymon and send them back and everything. And then Jedi's counterpart, Ilya, his Russian counterpart, shows up. And he then, drags them off to another part of Siberia that's even colder. And they have to deal with a group of Mammothmon and send them back. And Anna and Sonia and Yuri were going to invite them to have prochki and borscht. And it's just like, but we wanted to have that stuff with them. It sounded so good. Like, they're just so annoyed at, like, Jedi's counterpart at Ilya. But they have to run off, and they have to go deal with these other Mammothmon. And they end up dealing with a DigiDestined there that just has a Frigimon. So it's another DigiDestined with a Frigimon. We never get a name for this other one. But they're able to send them back. But like Sora and Yoli are just like so upset that like they didn't get to have soup or didn't get to have borscht with Yuri. And when they meet up with Matt again, Matt's like, who is Yuri? Like he's glaring at Sora. Who is Yuri, and why should I be concerned about him and you and him having borscht and prochki? Type thing. So that's just funny. We do get like a flash of them, like the three, Yuri, Sonia, Yuri, and Anna having the meal together and everything on Christmas, and as they celebrate Christmas. Then we get into where it's like all of the DigiDestined meeting up. So during the last episode of the series, we are of course having Davis and his group fighting against Malomyotismon. And Malomyotismon has, ripped his way out of the dream world into the digital world, and he sent all of this dark energy up to wrap around the earth and coat it in darkness so he can take over the digital world and the real world. And he is trying to, snuff out all the lights. But all over the planet, we see these different lights coming through, and it's the lights of the Digivices from the DigiDestined. All the DigiDestined have coalesced in different areas all around the world. and they are using their digivices to shine light through Malamayotismon's darkness. In New York, we see Mimi there with Michael and with Phil and with Steve and such. And then, like, in other places, we see all the other DigiDestined there. Like, we see Sonia down in Mexico City. We also see, like, 2 other miscellaneous lights shoot off around her for connecting to their Digimon. We see Yuri, Anya, and Sonia. I believe we see the 3 of them in Russia. We see the Poi brothers in Hong Kong. We see Catherine in France sending out hers. We see Derek down in Australia sending out his. And also around the battle, what's happening with Malamayotismon in the digital world, all the other partner Digimon have all shown up, all led there by, Tai and his group's Digimon. Not Agumon, because Agumon is with Tai at this point in time in the real world. But all the other partner Digimon have led, all the partner Digimon led each other to this spot because they sensed that there could be something they could do, and they want to help fight Malamayotismon, because not only is he a threat to the real world, he's a threat to their world and to their friends, because of course if Malamayotismon gets to the real world, he's basically going to want to slaughter all the DigiDestined, because he was going to do that anyway. Little dark for Digimon to go that way, but that's kind of what he was going to do, in all honesty. And so they're all there at the battle, and what is happening is, of course, all the DigiDestined, the Digimon and the DigiDestined, their bond between each other allows all of the DigiDestined that are in the real world to then, their beams of light connect to their Digimon, and they're able to then come through and be transported into digital world. Apparently the fly that is in here disagrees with me on that, but no, that is not true. I know Digimon better than you, Fly. I'm leaving that in because it's funny and I'm arguing with a bug. And, they end up having to, they get transported into the digital world, and they're all, you'll see them each with their Digimon and everything as they scan past a bunch of the other DigiDestined, and such like that. And so we get to see a bunch of that. And then, all of the DigiDestined together then use their power to power up Imperialdramon Fighter Mode, and then he's able to then, destroy Malamayotismon and destroy the darkness that's there. I will be going over the Dark Spore Children, as I said, in their own video, and that should be the next one, and then it should be Oikawa. Then we cut to, like, the, not 10 years later, but then we cut to, like, Digimon 2010, or Digimon 2020, where we have, the last evolution, where we deal with Menawa and Eosmon. So what ends up happening here is, of course, Menawa's plan is, of course, to gather up all of these DigiDestined before they stop, before their potential stops growing, so that way, and then lock them inside of these, dream worlds, where they can stay children forever and stay in their memories of them and their Digimon, and stay that way forever, so they don't have to lose their Digimon the way that she did. Minima will get her own video. Trust me, she will get her own video. But when we see this, we see a ton, when they get to the digital world, when Tai and Matt get to the digital world and get to the Neverworld section, where, Menawa is, we see all of, we see a bunch of these DigiDestined there with her. We see, at the very least, we see Rosa, and we see Michael, and we see, I think we see Mina, I think we see at least one of the Poi brothers, if not all of them. We see Catherine, and they all basically look the same way as they did in the series, because it's like, okay, well, we don't need to draw new character designs for all of these kids. So if we just have it be that they're stuck in their childhood memories and their childhood forms, we don't have to redraw anything. We just, have their character designs already done. We don't have to worry about that. We just make them glowy and give them creepy glowing red eyes as they're under Menawa's control. And, so that's what happens there, of course. And so the DigiDestined, so Tai and his group are, of course, like, okay, this is not going to go very well. So, Tai and Matt, of course, have to, work together to try to defeat Menawa. And this is, of course, when we get, Agumon bond of courage and Gabumon bond of friendship and everything for, them at their most powerful. And, so they're able to defeat Menawa defeat Eosmon and then kind of like pull Menawa out of her depression, I guess, type of a thing, or pull her out of that, out of the state of mind that she was in, and it frees the other DigiDestined, so they all start waking up all around the world again. And, so this implies that, okay, yeah, all of the DigiDestined are now fine. It also implies that every single one of these DigiDestined is going to have to go through the same thing that Tai and Matt and Sora are going through during Last Evolution. And that eventually, and the fly's arguing with me again. Will you shut up? It's rattling around in the light bulb. I will find you and I will squish you. But like, so it's all these DigiDestined that are going to have to go through like the same thing that Tai and Agumon went through, and I still bridge that with the fact of they hopefully will get their Digimon back. I don't really have too much to say about any of the other DigiDestined that are here. Obviously Ken ends up with Yoli, so Rosa doesn't come back into the picture. But I would be okay if like it stated that like either Tai or TK married Catherine, because we don't see Tai's wife in the epilogue, and we don't see TK's wife in the epilogue. And I would assume that if TK and Kari had gotten married, that would have been stated in the epilogue. Because, Yoli and Ken get married, and Sora and Matt get married, and it's very obvious because, well, just, watch the epilogue. And it's quite obviously obvious given their children's hair colors and hairstyles. But, we don't really see any of the other DigiDestined again. As I've said, I would have been okay. Like, I'd be okay if, like, Mimi married Michael. That would have been fine by me. But, for, like, some of the other miscellaneous DigiDestined. But we don't really hear anything else about them. It's assumed that, like, because Izzy has this giant network of DigiDestined that he's built up over the past, not 8, 9, whatever years, since he started, since all of that started, and they started getting connected with all these other DigiDestined around the world, that Izzy has just been building up this database. This includes Willis, and this includes Michael, and this includes, Mako, and a bunch of these other DigiDestined that they've interacted with, and other new ones that come along. And Menawa used that list so that way she could then go after the DigiDestined. So, smart idea on Izzy's part for making the list. Should have made it a lot more encrypted, in all honesty, or something. But, so it's assumed that a lot of these DigiDestined just continued being DigiDestined. We're probably still friends with, like, the ones that were in New York were probably still friends with Mimi. Some of the other ones maybe still got visited every now and then. If, the other DigiDestined can just hop into the digital world and then hop back out somewhere else in the world, they can go and visit them. So, that's what we have for the miscellaneous DigiDestined. The next one will, of course, be the Dark Spore Children, which will be a little bit more on the darker side, but it should be a bit of a shorter video. So that's what I have there. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye! Every time I turn around, there's more Jenais and more DigiDestined. I'm out of the loop.